It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, March 3rd, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that always loves a good Ivan Fedotov goaltending adventure.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch them.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for over 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is trade deadline week. We're going to get to some of the deals that have already happened since the Four Nations break with some other teams, how it affects the Flyers, as well as our nemesis of the week later in the show. But let us know your suggestions for potential trade deadline deals, and we'll break them down and analyze it and see if we would do it or give some tweaking suggestions, things like that. So you can let us know again on any of our socials or in our YouTube comments there. Looking at the game the Flyers won against the Winnipeg Jets on Saturday. And of course, like we said at the top of the show, it was an Ivan Fedotov special
Yes.
and just a tremendous performance in net by him. And he was John Tortorella was asked post game, I believe it was Jackie Spiegel who asked the question about the fact that, Fedotov often has to come in cold after not playing for a month or so here because of the way the calendar falls and decision making, etc. And that he always seems to step up that first game back real big. And he did so in this one.
Yeah, he did. I think part of it's decision making. I'm not going to blame the schedule. But yeah, he
I was
looked
thinking
good.
Four Nations break was part of why
Sure,
he hadn't played
sure.
in a month.
Well, we'll see now how it kind of rotates
Yeah.
from that. That's
Yeah.
fair with the Four Nations. Yeah, he looked good. I mean, look, there's times when he's swimming out there. I saw him make some big third period saves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way he is. What's funny is I don't think it's because he's fighting for a job. I really don't think he feels like he's going to lose his job to Kolosov.
No.
I think what it is just he hasn't played a lot in the NHL and he just gets better the more he plays. He's just getting more familiar with everything. I think that's where you get these games, and that's why I do think he does need to play more so he can be the backup next year.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. I think given everything and the way that Fedotov has been such a team player
Yes.
and just quietly gone about his business, I think you're spot on there. And I think this was a game for him where I felt like he was using his size
Hmm.
with the most efficiency based on his past performances. I think we did see him, of course, skate outside the crease a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
too much. But, we saw with that one kick save, you're like,
Hmm.
oh, that's where his size comes
Right.
into play, right? And I
Yeah.
felt like he was moving his body positioning in a more effective way than sometimes he does to utilize that.
Yeah, when you're a bigger goalie, the last thing you want to do is give up that size. And when I see some goalies sometimes just going down too soon, Sam Ersson does that sometimes. You're
Yep.
giving up with the size that you have. And so yeah, that's his big advantage.
Right. Exactly. And so I think that was a really good sign to see. And I think that, again, with the constant sort of messaging about knowing that he overplayed Sam Urson toward the end of last season,
Yeah.
I do think there's a little bit more confidence here with Fedotov to
I think
maybe
there
put
should
him
be.
in a couple more games than he would have otherwise. So hopefully that comes to fruition. Another big save in the game obviously came from Noah Cates, who
Yes.
had another very good game for the Flyers here. They put out that line against the Scheifele line for a good portion of that game. And, we talked ahead of time that he wasn't going to win the faceoffs. He didn't
No,
win the faceoffs.
no.
But I think other than that, they performed very well against that top line.
Yeah, I mean, there's the really good with Noah Cates, and then there's the hey, he's just playing too high up in the lineup. Like that's just the way it is. And Yeah,
Right.
I saw that he was like something like 39%, but in the defensive
Right.
zone, he was better, but now they're
Yeah.
using Sean Couturier in the defensive
Yep.
zone, so maybe they're
They
watching the
are.
show. Um, I just think, again, I think John gets these stats, and I think
Yep.
he's slow to come around to it. And I think that's part of his problem now as an older coach in this league, because I'm sure the Flyers' data is there. If we could find it, they know it. And so I think we're seeing some of these things, and we see them a little too late.
Yeah, I just was focusing more on their defensive play
No,
overall
no, I get it.
as far as that line and how they were able to, along with Fedotov's excellent performance, I think really hamper this incredible top line that the Jets have.
Yeah, it is their best defensive line for the Flyers, and yes, he did stop a goal from going in,
Yeah.
no question. And yeah, Cates has had a heck of a year. I see people saying, Selke and all. I don't think he'll be on the
He should
Selke
get
list.
votes, but I don't know that he's top 3.
No, I don't
He's
think he'll
just
be
not.
top 3. I would be
But
I
he'll
would
get
consider
votes.
him. I'll consider him putting him on the 5 though if I vote
Yeah.
again this year. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's where I would put him
yeah,
as well. I think, the other highlight of the game, of course, was Matvei Michkov's
yeah,
shootout goal, which, you think Connor Hellebuck versus Ivan Fedotov in a shootout. Like, to me, that's a no-brainer beforehand. But lo and behold, I think what a move he put
yeah.
on to
Yeah,
score
he's
that
got that
goal.
talent. He's got great hands. When he's playing with confidence like he's playing now, he's going to bury that probably, I would say, since it's a shootout, like 60% of the time.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah, he got it past the best goalie in the league. He's going to be a terrific player. Like those are all great things. I mean, those are things that you look at and you
Yeah.
say, yeah, that's a big time thing.
Right, and that's, of course, that confidence he's had recently led to him being named NHL Rookie of the Month for
Yes.
February, his second time being given that honor for the season. He got it in October at the beginning of the season, so it's good to see that he got it in October, getting off to a good start, but then also picking up his game again and getting it in February. I think it's a really, really good development path for him, getting 10 points in 7 games, extraordinary development for him. And, he's back in the Calder conversation in a
Hmm.
way that he wasn't, I think, right before Four Nations. So that was really good to see as well. Unfortunately, Garnet Hathaway is still hurt from that
Yeah.
injury in the Pens game. So hopefully he's doing a little bit better. I think in this game against Winnipeg, one of the things we did see from the Flyers that you and I have talked about pretty frequently is the lack of effective puck cycling, and I think that stepped up in
It
this
did.
game quite noticeably.
Yeah, there's no question it did. I mean, it didn't really produce, but at least
Right,
if you're keeping the puck away, you're limiting the
right.
chances on your goalie. And I do think they were trying to limit chances on the goalie. Like there was a
Yep.
concerted effort, and it worked.
Right, and I think that's where it was very good strategic play from the Flyers against a very specific kind of team. Like,
Right.
I think they did good planning for this
Yes.
game. Absolutely.
And some
And
reason they play well in Winnipeg. Like we
they
just know
do.
that.
They do. I thought, with the puck cycling, they had really good possession in regulation. I thought that kind of went out the window in overtime where
Yeah.
Winnipeg had the lion's share of possession, and that was the problem in the overtime for the
Right.
Flyers. They just didn't have the puck for most of the time, but I think that was, important to play a good 60 minutes of hockey against a team like that in the most effective way possible. That's a good process thing for the Flyers.
Yeah, it's a good process thing, and they used Kuzmenko at least in overtime, so that's
They
something.
did.
They didn't use him with Michkov, so that's still something we all want to see. And I don't know, will we even
Yeah.
see that by the end of the year? Will they play it all together other than on the power play? I don't know. I think
We'll see.
we'll see.
Yeah, I think Jamie Drysdale had another good game
He did.
and again, stepping up offensively.
Yeah, it was a
John
nice goal.
Tortorella said post game that he's learning how to manage the gap a little better and come in effectively in the offensive zone, which is exactly what we were talking about all season that he
Yeah,
started to do recently. And so it's really good to see him do that. a lot more, and glad to see that coach is giving him credit for it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he is trying to please, and it is working in his game currently. And if he can keep it going, then that's a good sign for him, a really good sign. It was a heck of a shot, and that's something that he has in his arsenal. But he just wasn't. I don't know. I don't want to say he wasn't able to do it, but I guess in the confines of how the team wants to play, he wasn't able to do it enough, and now he's starting to.
Yeah, it was really, really good. At the beginning of the game, I was very nervous about Nick Delorier entering the lineup and
Yeah,
getting into that fight. And I was like, what is this game going to be? Because it was kind of a pointless fight, but
right.
it turned out to be good in the end.
Yeah,
And
didn't
it
hurt
didn't
him.
really matter, it didn't
Nah.
hurt him. So all's well that ends well on that front. But in the meantime, up next for the Flyers is going to be a very emotional return of Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. So we will preview that game on tomorrow's show. But the trade deadline is alive and well.
Oh
We're
yeah.
going to talk about the deals so far and how that affects the Flyers coming up next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to crack them open. It's the perfect grab and go snack for my busy days and to have at my desk while I'm working. I had some friends over for a movie night a little ways back, and instead of popcorn, we had bowls of a variety of their flavors. Everybody loved them, but the Wonderful Pistachios chili roasted, no shells, and the sea salt and vinegar were the biggest hits. So delicious and healthy too. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. These little green wonders pack a protein punch. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. In addition to talking Flyers versus Flames, we are going to have our Phantoms Tuesday show tomorrow. And some continued good stuff overall
Yeah.
happening in Lehigh Valley. Some really interesting things going on. I would say some play level elevated,
Hmm.
especially Jacob Gaucher, I think has continued to perform well. So excited to talk about that. Plus, on the Wednesday show, we'll have your mailbag questions. So get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail, send us a message on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. And again, you can let us know any of your trade deadline proposals, and we will dig into them on the show as trade deadline week continues. So, aside from the Scott Lawton Last Supper photo scare, which we're going to talk about a little later in the show, spoiler alert, there's no actual Flyers news as of our recording for trade deadline. If there is, we'll have a little mini ep to break those deals down over the course of this week. But there were several deals over the
Hmm.
weekend that we can talk about that again happened as of recording. Gustav Nyquist, they had held him out of the game in Nashville, and he got traded back to Minnesota for a 2026 second rounder. We knew he was on the trade board there. He was a pending UFA. What do you think of this deal?
Yeah, I think it's a good deal. Nyquist is a really good player. I think he was just going to waste away in Nashville, and
Yeah,
so Minnesota got aggressive and they made the deal. I do want to point out. I'm noticing that in a lot of other markets, there's a lot of scouts, like we talked about a week ago,
right.
maybe a little less. On that Tuesday game, if there's not a lot of scouts in Philly, the chances of them making a trade have gone down considerably then. So that's going to be a key thing.
Well, I expect a full report on all the scouts
I
present
will
from
tell you.
you in the press box, and we will talk about it on the show. The New York Rangers are in a very bizarro situation
Yep.
relative to what we would have expected at the beginning of the season. And I think with the Adam Fox injury, they have just become sellers at this point,
Hmm.
very aggressively so, because they know their season is done and are treating it as such. Now, the Colorado Avalanche have shown that they are in a fine tuning mode to get
Yeah.
ready for a playoff run. This made for a perfect trade partnership here where the Rangers sent Ryan Lindgren, who is a pending UFA, and Jimmy Vesey, which I thought was an interesting aspect
Yeah,
of
because he
the
plays
deal,
good
right?
defensive hockey. He's just like a good guy to
Yeah.
throw in there.
Yeah, and so the Rangers get Parsonen and Calvin DeHaan, and a 2025 second rounder, 2025 fourth rounder. But the Rangers did retain 50% of
Yes.
Lindgren's salary, which is fine because he's a pending UFA, right?
Right. I mean, they had to do that. And 50%
Yeah,
is high,
it
but
is
they
high.
they got a better return because of it. Again, this is not a slam dunk home run trade like I think some Ranger fans think, because I think they just got Sammy Blais 2.0. I think that's all they did.
Could
Uh,
be.
and okay, I mean, if you want to get really excited about that, I'm not going to kill your excitement, but I'm just saying that's what you got. DeHaan's DeHaan. He's past it. I mean, that's fine. He could plug him in. Maybe he'll, do a little something, but he's past his better days. And a second round pick, honestly, we know. And in this draft, I'm going to say a second round pick is going to hold to that 30% that you get an NHL player out of it for any real amount of time. But you still have to do it. And I think Drury's doing the right thing. And I think he is actually hurting other GMs because teams with needs are going to the Rangers and they're getting deals done. And while other teams are
Right.
sort of waiting because they haven't decided what they want to do, they're losing out.
Right, and that's kinda, where the next step of the conversation is. The Rangers are also, as of our recording, holding Riley Smith off the
Yeah.
ice for a pending trade, right? So again, they're in sell mode. So obviously, Riley Smith's a winger, but Lindgren, solid defenseman,
He's
right?
just had an injury history.
So
So that's why the Rangers didn't want to extend him. He probably can give a good run here in the playoffs. I don't know what kind of contract he's getting. He might only get a 2-year deal because of his injury history, but he can play. No question about it. And Colorado is a very dangerous team, and I think they got more dangerous.
right, so, like, in terms of where that puts the Flyers, we also have to talk about the Seth Jones
Well,
deal.
that hurts the Flyers.
Yeah, that's the one that hurts the Flyers the most, I think, because I think Risto and Seth Jones provide. I might argue that Risto's a little bit better right now, but I think
Defensively,
that
not offensively.
defensively, 100%,
Right.
right? So in terms of if you're looking for a defensive defenseman to ride out your Stanley Cup run, I think Risto's the better option. But if you need a more offensive defenseman, Seth Jones was it. Goes to the Panthers, right? For Spencer Knight, which I thought was also an interesting
Yeah.
aspect of that
So
deal. But both of these deals kind of limit what the Flyers' options are at this point, right?
no question. The Flyers have gotten limited in the Risto market. I think we all could see that. I think the big thing about this deal is because of Aaron Ekblad and what his future may be with the team, they're covering
Mhm.
themselves by getting Jones because he does have that offense. And Jones outside of Chicago, I think, is going to show people who he is again because he's still a very good defenseman and still can be a top guy in the league. So I think Florida, bit the bullet on this, but the risk they're taking is they got rid of Spencer Knight because they had to money wise and otherwise. But Bob doesn't have a long term deal anymore. So they don't have a
No.
long term goalie anymore. And so, like, they're really throwing it out there and trying to repeat as a cup champ and really putting the other part at risk. So we'll see, how that works out. From Chicago's standpoint, I get it. I think they did the right thing here. I think they did get a future franchise goalie. You know, Knight had to overcome OCD, and so that definitely set him back a little bit, but
Yeah.
he's starting to pick it back up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good goaltender.
He is.
And that's the thing is, like, you look at the goaltending market, and the defenseman market. To your point, Aaron Ekblad's on an expiring contract, so
Yeah,
Florida has to hedge their bets here. They
correct.
they just don't have a choice.
No.
But I think that, I saw on a couple lists out there, not all of them, but a couple in terms of the goaltending free agent or trade deadline market. Fedotov on a couple of those lists, and
I don't
it
think
would be
that's
a
realistic.
I don't think that's realistic either, but, could they potentially swing a deal for Kolosov to somebody to
Sure.
I think that's more likely, in
Yeah.
my opinion, in terms of that, but Spencer Knight getting traded, like a goaltender like Spencer Knight getting traded, to me, reduces that possibility a
Yes.
little bit, right?
Yeah, there'll still be maybe one team looking for a goalie, maybe two, but definitely reduces. Like, again, I I don't want to keep repeating myself, but the longer Danny waits, the worse it gets. This isn't a
Right.
situation where waiting till the last minute is going to get you the higher price. It's not, because of the foreign nations. It disrupted this whole cycle.
Well, exactly, and we talked about before 4 Nations in
Yes,
our trade deadline sort of setup, we said, "Look, it's just like the real estate market. You don't wanna be the most expensive house on the block or the cheapest house on the block.
right.
You wanna be in that sweet spot, and the
Yes,
sweet spot is that, like, 2nd or 3rd deal that
right,
happens,
right.
right? Because you can get the most bang for your buck there and not be in, like, the crumbs at the end.
Yeah,
But the first deal sets the market, and you wanna be able to, like, go up from there in
yeah. I
terms of
mean,
what your return is, and we're kind of in the danger zone here of going on the other side of the curve. We're not there quite yet, but we're getting close.
no, but if I'm like Keith Jones, I got to nudge Danny and say, "Hey, listen, I understand what the record is of this team, but the odds of making it are long. And if Jake Evans gets traded, that's going to
Jake
limit the
Evans
Scott.
is the Yeah,
That's
Jake
going to
Evans
limit
is
the
the
Scott
canary
Lawton
in the
market,
coal mine,
right? Because if
right?
he goes, then
Yeah.
the Lawton deal is even harder to make.
Exactly. Exactly. That's definitely the name for me.
Yeah.
That's the kinda canary in the coal mine, like I
Yes.
said, in terms of this trade deadline and if they're gonna make a deal for Lawton or not. But, yeah, certainly, there's still a lot of cards on the table here. It's not over, and I certainly think some deals could be done that would be very effective for the Flyers, and we'll continue to talk about that as the week progresses, and we'll see what else happens out there. But in the meantime, there was an outdoor game. We're going to talk about that a little bit, plus have our nemesis of the week coming up next. Russ, I don't know if you got to see any of the Stadium Series game this weekend between the Columbus Blue Jackets and Detroit Red Wings. I wanted to just watch like some of the entrance stuff and the
Yeah.
pomp and circumstance
I
around
missed
it.
that. I saw a little bit. It's on my DVR. I do plan on watching it, but I wasn't feeling great this weekend, so it wasn't a great time to be able to do that.
Yeah, I did watch a bunch of that because the timing worked out in terms of having the 6 p.m. start and then the
Right.
Flyers game started at 7. So I was able to watch some of it and I loved again just I knew that the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Calgary Flames, to a large extent, were gonna honor him this
Of
season,
course.
but the fact that they've continued it throughout the season, it wasn't kind of a one and done thing. It
No.
wasn't just when they had
I think the
head-to-head
league will
games.
do something too. I do.
Yeah, I think there will be an award that
Yes.
they'll announce when they announce the NHL awards,
Yep.
100%. I think that's gonna happen. But I think the fact that both teams in the outdoor game honored him, I loved that the Blue Jackets came in wearing his traditional, uh, Jersey Shore
Yeah.
hoodie,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
the fact that the Red Wings even came in wearing all of both Gaudreau's, jersey history. I thought that was great. Meredith was there. She went on TV and
She's brave.
handled herself just I just completely in awe of this woman on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. And then, of course, Columbus winning actually gets them a little closer to the 2 or 3 spot in the
Yep.
division, which would be a plot twist, I think, for sure. Carolina and New Jersey have had their struggles
They've
recently.
had woes.
They have, and so Columbus really does have an opportunity to insert themselves into that conversation.
Yeah, I've been a Columbus believer for a little while now. I've said it on Sirius. I may have even said it here. Uh, they've they've really damaged the Red Wings too. Like, this hurt the Red Wings.
Yeah,
And
it did.
I did say on one of the other shows, might have been off the post, that, hey, when you win a game like this, the outdoor game, and it's an important 2 points, it's great for the team that wins, and it's horrible for the team that loses because all the emphasis and tickets and everything that goes into this game can be really draining. And so if you win, it's like you get a real plus from it. Remember when the Flyers won theirs, uh, when it was at Lincoln Financial, that was a big boost for them.
It was.
So
It
that's
really
what's going to
was.
happen for Columbus too.
Yeah, and it was good to see our old friend James Van Riemsdyk wound up tying the outdoor
Yeah.
points total record there. So that was good for him as well. Yeah, really good stuff. Moving to our nemesis of the week. Last week, I talked a lot about the Penguins, of course, because we had the home and home against them. And I think, that turned out okay, but not great in the end, especially with that second game against them in Pittsburgh that didn't go so well. But you talked about the fear that a lot of people had that there wouldn't be follow through of watching
Right.
the NHL following Four Nations. I haven't looked at TV ratings, but it seems like the energy is still there, and I
The
think the
energy's
outdoor
still
game
there.
helped.
And I see it online. I see people saying, "Hey, I don't know who to root for now. Tell me which club I should root for." And
I
that's
know.
a sign.
Yeah, I think people are choosing teams too quickly out there. I think it's you got to let the vibes come to you. That
You
is
do.
my opinion
You do.
about choosing a team, especially if you don't have one in your
Right.
market,
Right.
or you don't care about rooting for a hometown team. I think that there's just a certain vibe thing that it takes a little bit of time. I would watch the remainder of this season and the playoffs and then pick a team if I was starting
Sensible.
from scratch. But for this week, I have sort of two nemesis here. First off, that Scott Laughton Last Supper post, which I talked about earlier already. One of the most genius things I have ever seen in my life. We're linking to it in the show notes if you have
Yeah.
not seen
It's
it,
a
but
chef's kiss for sure.
it is the most beautiful work of art I have seen from anything in a long time, where Scott Laughton and other Flyers posed themselves as the Last Supper
Right.
painting at a team dinner in Winnipeg. And it's just chef's kiss. And the fact that Scott Laughton is on the trade block and it's Last Supper sent everybody scurrying
It
to be
did.
like, oh no, is he going to get traded? The most effective troll I've ever seen. I took the bait and got panicked. So,
I
like,
saw.
stick taps and huge round of applause to everybody involved. I think EJ was involved as well, according to
Yeah.
Torts. So that was super cool. My other nemesis this week is the Sorokin goalie goal that was not a goalie goal.
I
That
didn't
was
see it, so you tell me.
oh my god, you have to look at this video. It's Steven Stamkos tried to do a back pass that missed and went
Oh,
all the way back, and it just so happened that it was coming off a Sorokin save where the puck came out to
right.
Stamkos, so he was the last New York Islander to touch it, essentially.
Okay.
It's not a goalie goal. If the goalie doesn't shoot it, it's not a goalie goal. He gets credit on the score sheet, which is, again, I am against own goals getting credited on the
Yep,
score
you've talked
sheet
about that.
many times, but I'm not counting this for you, Sorokin. Sorry. That is my other nemesis
Okay.
this week.
My big nemesis is I see this thing online now where there are some guys out there that think if other guys do the shopping, you're not like a real guy. I do shopping. I'll raise this hand. I do it. I could do quick math, and so like a tip for everybody out there, because I know the prices have gone up a lot. I'm not a big brand guy, and if you're loyal to the big brands, you're going to get screwed. Coupons are great. Use as many as you can, but you have to do the math. You have to do the math of cost per ounce. You have to do the math of cost per pound. Whatever they give you in the store to help you with that, use it, because a lot of times they'll have products side by side. They do this with drugs. They do this with a lot of things, and the one that seems like it's a better deal, you got to look at it twice, because they have one sitting right next to it that they make more money on, and you get less product. And that's all. I'm just saying, be on the lookout for that. There's a lot of that going on right now in all places. And that's how you could actually save some money or at least get better value.
That's good, healthy information there for grocery shopping. I'm a I have some brand loyalty for like a few
Oh, it's okay
products
to have
where
some, sure.
yeah,
Just don't buy
but
all brands.
no, no, and there's some really good store brand stuff out there, like the
Yes.
whatever the ShopRite store brand
Yeah,
is
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
they're
Philly
fine.
area. I don't know, Bowl and
Target store
Harvest or
brand, yeah,
something like
Target store brand's fine, Acme store brand's fine, a lot of them. You go to a Lidl or Lidl, however you pronounce it, nothing
that's
is
where
name
I
brand,
shop,
and
so
stuff is healthier there, and so, yeah, you
yep,
could get some good deals out there.
yeah, absolutely. I always shop at Lidl because I think it's, really, really economical, but,
Yep.
good tips from you today, Russ. Thanks so much. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back tomorrow talking Flyers versus Flames and Phantoms Tuesday. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in those mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts or trade proposals to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. Email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ, I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.